Alright guys, we're gonna switch gears from music and now change to visual arts, which is my absolute favorite unit to teach, and I'm super sad that y'all aren't here and we can't do all the fun projects and stuff that I had planned. But you know, we're gonna get through this. It's gonna be okay, and we'll try to have some fun with it too. Alright, so visual arts. A couple things you need to know. There's some vocabulary you need to know. So remember way back when we learned this word that starts with an A, aesthetics. Remember, what does aesthetics mean? If I say I like your aesthetic today, I'm telling you I like the way you look, right? It's just what something looks like. So in visual arts, every subject has its own vocabulary. You have to know a few of the formal elements to be able to talk the lingo. So we're going to learn about shapes, lines, space, color, light, and dark, and all the elements and emotions that go with those. Alright, so it's really all just a description, right? Composition. Remember those C words from Unit 1? Well, they're all going to come back to haunt you. So, composition, the overall plan or structure of a work of art. The composition of a work depends on how the formal elements like line, shape, space, color, light, and dark are arranged. And it's distinct from the subject matter, meaning it has nothing to do with the subject matter whatsoever. It's just to do with the lines and shapes and space and colors used. So if you look at the two paintings up here, they have the exact same subject matter. They're both about Lazarus, and if you know anything about Lazarus, Jesus raised him from the dead, I think 3 or 4 days after he died. So look at this one. What do you notice that's different about this one than this one? What about the lines? There's a lot of what kind of lines? Up and down lines are called what kind of lines? Who went to pre-K that day? Whose pre-K teacher made them do vertical, horizontal? Yes, vertical, horizontal. So there's a lot of vertical lines in this one, and there's a lot of horizontal lines in this one. What about colors? A lot of bright colors in this one, a lot of dark colors in this one. Okay, so very different compositions, but exact same subject matter. So composition, there's this thing called rule of thirds or rule of 3. I even heard it on like a car commercial the other day, like good things come in threes. So this is an artist kind of trick to make things more interesting. So if you drew like a tic-tac-toe board on your piece of paper that you're going to arrange your composition on, and then you put your main subject matter off to the side instead of straight in the middle, it changes the composition. Makes it a little more visually interesting. So on your notes, I want you to try it. So I have the bottle right there and it's off to the side. I want you to draw your little tic-tac-toe board on there and then tell me if you like the one that's in the center or if you like the one over to the side. Now, is there a wrong answer? No, there's no wrong answer because remember, art is subjective. Some people like things centered, some people like things over to the side, and it's just a matter of personality and likes and dislikes, and you're not wrong or right if you like one way or the other. So compare them, see which one you think is more interesting. Alright, let's try. There's also this thing called rule of odds, saying that having an odd number of subjects in a work of art makes it more interesting. So look at the 4 pictures. Who thinks this one's more interesting? And then look at this one, and this one, and this one. Okay, majority of the people would probably say this one's more interesting. There's 7 kind of subjects in there, and it makes like an up and down zigzag pattern if you look at it with your eyes. Some people would say this one's more interesting because it makes like a triangle, and there's 3 subjects in here. A lot of people would like this one because it's like 2 very similar subjects and then one that you know is the same as this but looks different. And then some people like the symmetry of even number subjects. There's no wrong or right, but if you did a poll, like the majority of people would find the odd numbers more interesting to look at than the even numbers. All right, plane, not the kind you fly in, okay? Though I wish I could go on a trip somewhere. Anywhere would be great at this point. Plane is a flat surface having a direction in space. So, if you know French, I think it's French, maybe. Probably French. It says this is not a pipe. What do you think that means? This is not a pipe. Looks like a pipe, right? Have you seen this image before? If you've seen Fault in Our Stars, she has a t-shirt that has this image on here. Why is this not a pipe? Because it's a painting of a pipe. So, Magritte. He's also the one that, remember in here I have the picture with the guy with the apple in front of his face? He's also the one that did that one. Kind of a weird guy, does interesting things. So he did a whole series of this is not a pipe, this is not an apple, this is not a pear, but they're pictures of pears. So if you look at this one, the plane in this one has a horizontal kind of shape to it, direction. This one, you can see it's supposed to be God as architect where he's designing the universe, has a diagonal plane to it. And then this one, Bird in Space, which I thought was a super boring sculpture until I saw it in person, follows a vertical plane. So this is Dr. Bernard standing over here. He's about 6 foot tall. So you can see how actually large it is compared to him. So it's much more impressive in person. Really, really vertical plane this one follows. All right, next one, balance. This is the simplest form of balance, is symmetry. If you remember back to kindergarten, usually around Christmas time, your teacher might have you draw half of a Christmas tree or half of a butterfly, and then you fold the paper in half, and then you pull it apart, and whatever you painted on one side will appear on the other, and it's absolutely symmetrical. And so you learn that word, symmetry, hopefully, in pre-K or kindergarten. And it's achieved when two sides of a work of art are mirror images of each other. So this is by Leonardo da Vinci, who painted the what? Most expensive painting in the world, the Mona Lisa. Okay, this is the Vitruvian Man. And so he was fascinated not only with art, but he was really an inventor and an anatomist, and he was really interested in how the human body worked. And so he drew a man perfectly symmetrical on both sides. Next one is a line. Now lines are super fun because there's all kinds of emotions in art associated with lines. So a line is a path traced by a moving point. In the language of art, line can have many qualities depending on how it's drawn. Many lines are described geometrically, like vertical and horizontal, okay? But in art, they can take on different expressive qualities because we identify them in our own bodies or in our own nature. So you see this in cartoons all the time. You can understand the emotions of a cartoon character based on the lines associated with that drawing. So let's do the first one. Zigzag lines. They indicate aggression and sharpness, or agitation, or anger, or frustration. Can you think of a situation and where zigzag lines kind of play into it? On your notes, I want you to look at the little characters. I want you to use zigzag lines and make your characters angry. Show their anger just by using zigzag lines. Why do angry birds look angry? Do you ever notice their eyebrows on the angry birds? So most of the time they're either jagged or zigzag lines. I know sometimes when I get frustrated, I can like even feel the zigzag lines coming out of my ears, just like this guy. Okay, next one's wavy lines. Wavy lines indicate gracefulness and the human body because there are very few absolutely straight lines in the human body. So we are all a bunch of wavy lines all put together. So I want you to draw some wavy lines, and then I want you to try to draw a human figure. And I don't want a stick figure. I want you to try to draw a real human body. And there should not be any, very few straight lines with your human body because we're all a bunch of wavy lines. So if you're a dancer or something else that signifies grace, if you're going to draw about that particular activity, you would include a lot of wavy lines. Next one, horizontal lines suggest landscape in the horizon. They impart a sense of peacefulness, vastness, and constancy. So when you think horizontal, think landscape. Okay, think the horizon. I always think of a beach sunset because you can see the horizon super clearly. This is a very famous painting, and in fact, it was somebody on the news because the news is on all the time these days. In the background, some doctor they were interviewing or whatever. This painting was on his back wall. It's like, I know that painting. So this is the Wanderer above the sea of fog. So they use lots of horizontal lines in the landscape back here to indicate the vastness behind him. Pretty interesting. Okay, then there's vertical lines. There is a reason they built all the churches and cathedrals back in the day with these very sharp vertical lines. What was the church trying to prove? That they're the most powerful, okay? Because vertical lines, they imply strength, power, and authority. There's a reason that we have all these huge columns in front of like the Supreme Court building and stuff like that, because it signifies power and strength and authority. Diagonal lines, they suggest movement, okay? So dynamicism, vitality, and animation. You can almost feel the angel, St. Michael the Archangel, where he's about to kill this demon devil, that you can feel the movement of the sword almost about to come down just by the whole diagonal lines created in this composition. So on your paper, I want you to draw me some diagonal lines and then draw a little scene that gives it some movement so you can tell something's about to move. Alright, and then there's perpendicular lines. So this is where you're going to have some horizontal lines and some vertical lines, and they're going to kind of come together. And they suggest permanence. They imply sturdiness, solid, and immovability. Okay, so this is the Parthenon in Athens, Greece. It was built around 450-ish BC. So it's older than Jesus and still standing in a region where there are lots and lots of earthquakes. So it's super old and permanent. Okay, permanent. Alright, so let's analyze a few lines by going to this website and let's see what you've learned. I can get out of here, into here, and pull this up here in theory. Here we go. Alright, so one of your projects is to create something about yourself using lines. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but let's look at a couple of these paintings. Alright, so just by looking at these paintings, it's got some wavy and some diagonal lines. So what do wavy lines mean? Gracefulness. And what do diagonal lines mean? Movement. Okay, so you can almost feel the paint dripping, right? And next one. Okay, so I see some vertical lines, which mean power. I see some horizontal lines, which means vastness. I see diagonal lines, which means movement. So what do you think this artist is trying to say about industrialization? It's moving, it's spreading across vast areas, it's powerful. Lots of things being said just by using lines. This one is crazy. Look at all the lines going on here. I mean, there's so many you can't even tell. There's all kind of zigzag lines. There's horizontal lines. There's vertical lines. There's, if you look carefully, all in here, there's all kind of crazy little like lizards and all kinds of stuff. It's super, super detailed. Lots and lots of lines going on. This one's unimpressive as it is, right? Kind of some wavy, drippy, diagonal lines. Kind of makes it feel like a slow kind of movement. But when I show you what it looks like in real life, you're going to change your mind about that. Alright, and this is one of my favorites of all time. This is by Matisse, the same guy who did the dance and music. Remember our orange naked people? Remember that's not a literal interpretation, that's the nature of music and dance. Well, this is one of his very good friends, and she ended up turning and becoming a nun, but he was in love with her and he wanted to marry her. But it super frustrated him. Ooh, thunder. Super frustrated him that she wouldn't marry him. So there's all kinds of emotions going on in this painting. First of all, she's very curvy in lines, even though she was very thin in person. She always got mad that he painted her kind of too fat. And then there are a bunch of zigzag lines, which mean anger and frustration. There are some vertical lines because he said she had all the power in the relationship. Okay, there's diagonal lines, meaning movement in the relationship. So all kinds of things going on about their personal life in this one little painting just based on lines. Okay, what about this one? It does have horizontal lines in it, but it has so many zigzag lines in it and diagonal lines in it that you can tell that there's a bunch of movement. As opposed to almost the same scene, two boats on water, but this one is a lot more still and vast. Okay, so lines tell us a bunch about what's going on. So, kill that. If you do the line project, I want it to look something like this. So I want you to pick an activity that you like to do, swimming, football, anything like that. And I want you to use a bunch of lines to tell me how you feel about that activity. I don't want a picture of the activity itself. Okay, so just about how you feel. What do you think this one's based on? Super famous 3D sculpture and lines. Okay. By Frank Stella. It's actually based on race car driving. So it takes a lot of grace. Okay, so he has some wavy lines in here. Takes a lot of power, so he has a lot of vertical lines in here. Takes a lot of, not really anger, but like aggression to be in the lead. Okay, so a lot of zigzag lines. But not once does he have a picture of a race car, right? It's just about how he feels about race car driving. So that's what I want you to do if you choose that project. So, be good, be safe. Love you. See you next time.